Good morning.
Um, Good morning. Hey, everyone. So there's an opportunity here for us to reintroduce or introduce, depending on where you are in your process of sort of anti-racism work. My good friend, Marian Taylor Brown at Arts Connect International. Marian's been working on several projects to help this community and many others start to tackle and think about this work. And I think just with what we're seeing happening, playing out in our community locally, nationally, and just sort of in all sectors of our nation, right? There is a call for folks to really get serious about their anti-racism practice and what that looks like. I think there is an opportunity for StageSource to help folks in that work, to show how it is tied economically to the larger problems of the pandemic, um, but to also help us all make space in this community for the people that we call colleagues and family. And so this is my opportunity to reintroduce you, like I said, or introduce some of you to folks who are doing this work. So, Marian, I'd love for you to talk about your introduction to this work and what you're currently doing. Um, for folks, you know the drill. If you have questions, please put them in the chat and we'll take it from there. Welcome.
Great. Thank you so much. And Dawn and the StageSource crew, thank you all for inviting me this morning to spend some time with all of you. I'm really grateful for the work that StageSource is also doing as a leader within not only the theater space, but our wider art service organizations, and making sure that this anti-racism work is at the front of all of our work, not only in this moment, but always, and particularly being called into it in this moment, given the landscape and everything that is happening. So my entry point, just a little bit about who I am and how I came to this work. I'm a visual artist, studio practitioner, where visual arts were a really important entry tool and space for me in inclusive educational practices. So my career kind of started off in inclusive education, public health education, and art for public health, education, and social justice. And that evolved with recognition that you can't do any social justice-based work without racial equity being at the core of it. So just as far as my rooting and how I came here, it's all been this iterative and ongoing life path. And Arts Connect International was founded here in Boston in 2014 to support artists who are using their work for social justice and social change. And over the years, we've been able to work with artists of all different disciplines. And we've also started doing a lot more sector support work. So that's included research and doing some transdisciplinary research over the last couple of years to better understand cultural equity for Boston's arts and culture ecosystem. That's also included wider community programming. So over the last 2 years, we've run the Arts Equity Summit, and we've had smaller symposiums similar to that really allows folks who are in that work and in that world to really come together and share best practices and learn with one another, as well as doing case studies to unpack some of the difficulties in doing and sustaining that work. And then it's also led us to do systems strengthening. So in addition to our leadership development work and training that we do, our systems strengthening is more focused on an organizational level. And that's where we've been doing consulting work over the last couple of years. And it's generally been in response to folks simply coming and asking us for that support. And I would also point folks, I know Dawn had hoped that the Anti-Racism Collaborative could be with us this morning. We're also starting to do some work with ARC and specifically with Deidre Montgomery. They are phenomenal, and they are doing a lot of that like one-on-one consulting work. So I'd also just refer you, if you're looking at this point in time for your organization or board to do more in-depth processes with consultants, they're really phenomenal to reach out to. They also have some one-on-one training. And most recently, ACI, in partnership with a lot of wonderful local organizations and institutions, had started this idea with the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture predominantly and the Boston Foundation, and it's now turned into something much larger with more partners, called the Cultural Equity Learning Community. And I recognize that many of you on this call are part of that community, so I'm very grateful that you're part of it and doing that work with us. If this is new to you and you haven't heard about the CELC yet, we're about 4 weeks in at this point, and we actually formally closed registration yesterday. But if you email me, I can do a back-end registration for you, because if it's helpful for you to have access to these resources, we want you to be part of this. And the goal and aim with the CELC, it's a 2-unit, 16-week course. And the first 8 weeks really focuses on self and understanding how we operate within the world, different aspects of privilege, and how that shows up in all of our identities and who we are, as well as building shared language and understanding so that we can do some of this foundational anti-racism, anti-oppression work. And then Unit 2, which will be led by Mina Malik and Deidre Montgomery, really focuses on organizational restructuring and change. So another thing too is if you have colleagues, again, if you're coming to this call as your own person, that's great too. If you also have colleagues that you're working with and or board members, having them with us, particularly for Unit 2, could be really helpful in opening that conversation of how do we start to make sustained change within the theater sector and beyond. And ACI will hopefully continue to operate as a support mechanism as all of us move through this work, with recognition that we're all learning this together. So pulling back together to take those best practices and continue to do that iterative work is really essential. So that is my early morning spiel, and I am happy to take questions, or Dawn, if any of that needs clarification, please let me know.
So there is one question in the chat asking if this course will be offered again.
Yeah, great question. Right now we have an interest form that would look to start another section of this in early 2021. This first course will go through the first week of December, just as far as timing goes. We may push up the second run if we can increase capacity of humans to do so, just because there seems to be interest in doing that. So it's very much in the works, but not solidified yet.
And at present, this course is free for anyone who wants to attend.
It's a donation-based course.
Thank you.
So we suggest that if it's available and comfortable for folks to do so, the suggested donation is $250 per arts administrator, and all of the registration fees go directly to a community fund that will then be re-granted to BIPOC-led organizations and or BIPOC identifying local arts leaders. So that will be a process that we'll be getting into early in the new year. Yeah, that's the piece of it. And honestly, with the donation-based, wherever you are, we want you in this community, we want you in this work, so don't let that be prohibitive by any stretch.
And I'd love to reinforce that. Don't let it be prohibitive, but this work is valuable. It is worth something. Their time is worth something. So if you have the capacity to do or donate something, please do. Let's see, another question. There's a question in the chat. How long is each session? When are they going to be held? And my understanding, this is learn at your own pace. So can you talk a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, great questions. So every week on Monday, we send out a constant contact email that has a pre-recorded lecture for the week. And that lecture is generally 45 minutes to like an hour and 15 minutes, depending on the week. So you can watch that at any time. You can revisit it at any time. So that's also why we say, if you're coming in at this point, it's totally fine to matriculate now because you can catch up. There's also a weekly homework, and there's enough homework provided that you could spend the next year of your life just devoted to this work. We do not expect you to do that. You can spend 15 minutes, half an hour, 5 hours, whatever you have to give, you'll get what you put in. And we make sure that the homework is also multimodal for different learning styles and types, as are the lectures to the best of our abilities. So that means that there's TED Talks, podcasts, different artist representation, as well as articles to read through. And there's been some really great local panels too recently that we're trying to make sure are highlighted in this upcoming homework swath. And then there is also a wraparound support system. So we have a peer-to-peer mentorship match group. So a lot of folks are grouped with others to process this material together. If you're coming into the course a little bit later, but you still want to jump in on that, I can help you figure that out. And then we also have drop-ins. And so once every 4 weeks, we invite you to come and meet with one of the industry experts, one of the folks on our team, and up to 20 people to talk through what your experience has been, questions that you have. So it's very open formatted, but that's the opportunity to process and dive deeper. And we do have a lot of organizations that also are working together in this. So for example, like the Massachusetts Cultural Council, I know that they're doing this as a team. I know that the record company is doing this as a team. The new rep leader is doing this as a team with their board in particular. So that is possible, but you are also welcome to come as your own person and still get that support as well.
Excellent. Another question in the chat, is it possible for an organization to join for part 2 without having done part 1?
Yeah, great question, especially because we're all at different points on our journey with this work. So to be completely transparent, I think unit 1 for some folks, it's like just a refresher of like, oh yeah, I've already been doing this work for a long time. I'm really ready to jump into unit 2. Whereas if some folks really fundamentally, foundationally need unit 1, what is really important about unit 1 is that it builds that shared knowledge and foundational understanding of some of the language that we then translate into action. So I would highly suggest that even if you're just planning to be really heavy in unit 2, still take the time to review the materials from unit 1. And there's also a break in between unit 1 and unit 2. So again, if you're trying to catch up and or figure out what resources are most relevant for you, you can take those weeks to kind of poke around and figure out where you want to be in that material.
Great. Is there an email to contact you about this course? Should we go straight to the website?
I'll drop all of that in the chat.
Excellent. My question for anybody right now, it is very generous of you to offer that if there are folks who want to get in on this now, right, even though registration is closed, now is the time. Is there a cutoff where that is no longer possible so that I can say, do it now, y'all?
I will just reiterate that registration closed yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I would just say
right.
At your earliest convenience, like if you're able to pop open an email browser right now and just say, hi, Marian, I'd like to get enrolled, that would be really helpful for me. If you also need to go and talk to some of your friends, family, loved ones, and or colleagues because you want them to join you, let me know and I can help you do a group registration if we're at that point. And ultimately, it's up to you and your journey and where you are. So it's still valuable if you join a couple weeks from now, but it's going to be more impactful if you can jump in and get in with the material sooner rather than later. So it's really up to you. But for me, please sooner rather than later if you can.
Things that I would like to reinforce, right? This work is falling on individuals. So sooner rather than later. This work is important. Please, let's make it easy for the people who are facilitating this work for us to be of service to us. Marian, I know I need to let you go. My question just for others, is there other sort of individual consulting like we were talking about with Anti-Racism Collaborative? Are there other things that folks can avail themselves of through your organization that you might give a quick bullet of?
Sure. So we've traditionally worked really just with every organization on where they are and what their needs are. And a lot of that has been in person. So at this particular juncture, when so much of our work is online, we have a lot of questions about just what is most effective for you. Mm-hmm. We definitely do by the hour consulting. So that's an additional thing for the cultural equity learning community is if you want to dive deeper, either yourself or with others. We also do coaching sessions, which coaching is much more about processing and working through with you what your goals are and or what the obstacles are. So we're really interested in that gap analysis of figuring out what's in our way from intention versus action and how do we make sure that we're pressing forward with action. We have done a lot of board trainings in the past. So if that's a particular area that you're thinking for yourself, I'm a board member or maybe I have board members that really need support in this. Please feel free to get in touch. You can send them our way. I think once we get the Arts Equity Summit back up and working, I would also highly encourage everybody to come to those types of convenings because a lot of the work is foundationally represented within that space, and that's really important. And for the one-off, the other consulting suite services, we do the traditional EDIA suite. So we can meet you where you are, and we will try our best to do it in a timely fashion. And if we don't have the capacity because of running the CELC right now, I will happily get you in touch with folks who can. So feel free to reach out.
All right. Marian, thank you so much. I know you need to run, so please feel free to bounce. And thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you doing this on the fly.
I appreciate being here. I hope everyone has a beautiful rest of your week. Thank you.
Thanks, Marian.
All right, friends. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about what StageSource is doing and where we are in this process, give you a couple of, I guess, updates, and then I will let folks go. So the first is, this is our first and only meeting of this month. We have moved to an every other week schedule, and yours truly is going to try to take a vacation. I hope that you all try to take a vacation as well. But we will come back in September. One of the groups that Marian mentioned, Anti-Racism Collaborative, is an organization that we will be working with, that StageSource will be working with, to start to bring some of this work to the community. And by that, I mean, I know many of you are also doing this work on your own with yourselves individually as a part of your personal work, but also with your organizations. But I think there is value in us trying to also come together collectively to sort of get on the same page with shared knowledge, values, vision, language, all of those and none of those and some of those, like everything in between. And we had started a process with Anti-Racism Collaborative just before the pandemic, and we are now in a place where we can kind of pick that up. So there will be more information coming on that. And for those of you that don't know the folks there, we look forward to introducing you. And for those of you that do and have seen the work that they're doing, this will be reaffirming for all. Some of the things that we are working on, and these are the beginnings of ideas, things that we are fleshing out. And I bring them here because we have this public platform. And I recognize that many of us are talking in other smaller pockets. We're all on Zoom meetings throughout the entire week. And what is helpful, I think, to StageSource, both in terms of getting information and being of service to this community, is sort of not keeping this information to ourselves and then just all of a sudden being like, and bam, here we go, but seeding some of these ideas so that when you are out in conversation, you know that there's another organization working on it, not because we are trying to take up all of the work. That is not what I want, but just to be able to say, oh, hey, Dawn, I know you all are planning on doing this, but there are 5 other organizations that are already working on it and we're already here in this process. Maybe y'all want to jump onto that. Or this is a great idea, StageSource, go run with it. We sure weren't going to do it, right? It is better for us to be communicating with each other. So to that end, StageSource right now, our team is working to collect the accountability statements of our membership and put them on our website in a publicly available place. Just in terms of, I think, I don't want to say record keeping, but ease of access. Right? We have over 200 members. There are a lot of folks who ask us what so-and-so is doing, what this company is doing. And it just seems to us to be a great place to be able to keep that information. Also, maybe makes it easier for folks to say, hey, this is the thing that we are looking at in our anti-racism work or our accountability statement. I wonder what other folks are doing. And so we will continue that as a living page. Once we get it up, we will continue to populate it. As you change your statements, as your institution grows and learns, please feel free to send us your page, send us your statement. We are happy to upload it, but all we are doing is culling together the information that is already publicly available. I want to make that clear. We are just putting it in a place that's easy access for our membership. We have heard a lot of talk and desire for a town hall. We are moving away from the language of town hall into listening post. The question that we are asking ourselves as a staff and as a board and as community members, who is calling for these town halls? What is the purpose? What are the goals? Who needs to be in those town halls, or sorry, in those listening posts? And how do we sort of set it up to keep people as safe as possible? So does that mean that there is a BIPOC post, a Black, Indigenous, person of color listening session, an affinity listening session, a predominantly white institution listening session? These are all questions that we are sort of asking ourselves as we put this together. And then who are the people who can facilitate those conversations thoughtfully, holistically, for the community? And then what do we gather from that and how do we disseminate that information? So this is, again, beginning phases. It's the stuff that we're willing to, that we are interested in tackling. And as your organizations, if your own organization is doing that, if you are working with a bunch of other groups that are doing that, please let us know. Because again, we don't have to duplicate work. but we can certainly support it and radiate it out. And then the other thing that we are sort of looking to do is put together a group of consultants made up of StageSource board members, staff members, and community-minded folks who are willing to look at accountability statements, diversity, inclusion, accessibility work that your organization might be doing, and sort of ask thoughtful questions about what it is that we're seeing. I myself have been doing this for some members of our community, and I know there are others of us in this community who are also doing that work, right? This is a chance for you to get a second set of eyes on the information that you are putting out there, the ways in which you're moving in the world, and just have folks sort of say, these are the questions that I have. This is where it leads me. And again, I cannot stress this enough. Everything that I'm saying right now is the sort of like, these are germs of ideas of the things that we are working on. Nothing is set in stone. We have made it a priority to work with Arts Connect International and to work with Anti-Racism Collaborative. For those of you that are in the know, to work with the members of Loose Conglomeration of Humans, #Cultural Salvation, to keep saying, this is what we're working on. How does this look? Does this work? Where are we missing the mark? Where should we not be actually taking this work on? We are taking the tactic of being slow and thoughtful in this so that we can help mitigate unintended harm, so that we can help really so that we can thoughtfully take a moment to look at where we are as a community and assess where we think we can be of help. So I don't want this to come off as, this is the didactic, this is StageSource is deeming, these are the things. That is not where we are. Everything is a conversation, and everything that we do is in service of the larger community. The other thing that I want to say is what we have found ourselves able to do in this moment is to be the organization that pulls threads together. Many of the folks that are on this call, I have seen and sat with in other rooms. So I think my charge to us as a community is to keep sharing information back and forth between ourselves, right? That what you hear here, please take it into your other groups. What you hear in other groups, please bring it here so that we can make sure that we are moving with each other and moving in positive ways. And again, I keep stressing it, not duplicating efforts, but so that we can all be aware. I find that often I go into conversations and we all sort of hold our cards to the chest. And I don't know that that serves us. I don't know that everybody agrees. So again, live your life, make your choices. But that is the thing that I would ask from you. How do we all start talking together? And so I think the opportunity for StageSource now in this moment, we started these calls to specifically deal with the pandemic. We started these calls to share best practices, ask questions, and share information. I think we can keep doing that, but we can open it up broader to some of the other issues that are facing the community. I think this moment right now in how we're all doing our anti-racism work is tied into the work that we need to do in terms of navigating the pandemic, but there are so many other things that are coming at us. So while we keep these calls going for as long as we have critical mass, and I suppose that when we get to 5 people, I'll be like, all right, well, clearly we're done. But as people are willing to keep meeting, I think this is the opportunity for us to continue to tie ourselves to each other in the work that we're doing and what we want to see for this community. So I think you will see a broadening of what we are covering in these sections, right? We will always come back to how we're navigating the pandemic. We will always come back to this anti-racism work, but I think there are other things that we are hearing in the community that this forum can help us address. To that end, I'm just going to drop this idea out here. I invite you all to take it and chew on it. I am hearing a lot of conversations right now about people talking about what are new organizational models? What are new ways of working, either collaboratively or other ways of looking at what our institutions and organizations are and how they behave, so that we can be a little more nimble in navigating these really tough times. Now, whether that looks like moving from a subscription model to moving all of your work digital, I don't know. But I drop it out here to say, I'm hearing a lot of folks talk about that. If you are talking about it, let us know. If you hear it come up in another conversation, mark what's interesting, and keep spreading that information among each other, right? I keep hearing these calls for collaboration, but what does that look like? And who is picking up that conversation to actually further that work? That is a thing. How do we do that together? And that doesn't all have to be on StageSource. So mostly I'm like, I can tell you what I'm hearing. Who wants to take it on is the next question. That that is it. I think keep using this and keep using us as a place to workshop ideas. And we will continue to try to be of service, and be helpful. But that is all that I have for everybody right now. Questions, comments, concerns? Dawn, StageSource needs to just stop. We're done. Like, y'all quit it. We're going to do our own thing. Anything? Nothing? I saw a thumbs up. Thank you. Just one bit of validation. Greatly appreciated. All right, friends. Then that's it for us. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to that long little piece from me. I appreciate it greatly. And I can't wait to see what we continue to do. Bye, everybody. Happy Tuesday.